Hi, I'm Sue Fairchild. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between one sheets, query letters, and proposals. First, let's talk about a query letter. A query letter is an inquiry sent, meaning mailed or emailed, to multiple literary agents to gauge their interest in representing your book or other writing project for publication. This is what Jane Friedman says about query letters. One, you should include the housekeeping, your book's genre or category, a word count, and the title and subtitle. You should include the story description. That's the most critical query element, really. This is only 150 to 300 words, though. That's sufficient for most narrative works. Comp titles, which means comparative titles, these are usually required by most agents and publishers. They want to know that you have scoped out the field of what other titles might be similar to yours. You're going to add a bio note, something about yourself, but you're going to keep that really short, usually 50 to 100 words. In its entirety, the query shouldn't run more than one page, single spaced, if printed, or somewhere around 200 to 450 words. Be brief by choosing only the best information to convey to convince the agent or editor that your proposal is a must see. Remember, this is not your proposal, but you want them to want your proposal and your book. These are used for magazines and other writing as well as books, a query letter. A query letter for a magazine article would outline the idea you have for the piece. Who would you interview? What is the goal of the piece? What is your thought process of what your article is going to be about? A standalone query letter should end with a request to submit a complete proposal. And the query letter has one purpose and one purpose only. It is to seduce the agent or editor, magazine editor, into reading or requesting your work. Now, a one sheet. A one sheet is more like a promo for your book, and it's primarily used at writing conferences. So this is utilized to give an agent or editor that you're talking to, often in 15-minute appointments, a little synopsis of what your book is about, what your idea is about. The one sheet gives pertinent information about your book and you. It always includes a headshot of yourself because, like I said, the one sheet is usually given at a conference to an agent, publisher, or editor, and they are looking and seeing and talking to a lot of people during these conferences. Sometimes, if you're going to a really large conference, they can be upwards of 600 people or more. Now, they might not be meeting all those people, but they certainly will see a large portion of them. If they have your headshot and they can read what your story was about, they can connect. We often refer visuals to a person and a thing, an idea. So make sure your headshot is on there. And then once you give that to them at conference, they probably won't give you an answer there, but they might think about it later and say, oh, yeah, I do want to talk to them about that. And they'll remember because your headshot is on there. The one sheet is meant to be short, full of info, and eye catching. So you want to put in a lot of the same things that we talked about in a query letter into a one sheet. So maybe it's going to be like the back cover copy, what you would put on the back of your book to entice. So your little description about what is the book about. So you're going to really want to be working on those back cover copies to make them the most concise and eye catching that you can, and like enticing that you can for agents, editors, publishers to want that. You're going to have a short bio again about yourself. This can be a little bit longer than the one that was on the query letter, but I would still keep it to under 250 words for your bio. Add in anything to your bio that that you think connects to the story that you are trying to tell. So if you are writing an academic work, what makes you the perfect person to write that academic work? If you are writing any kind of nonfiction, do you have educational degrees or history, work history? Maybe you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, a therapist. What gives you the impetus? What gives you the criteria to write this book? The expertise, that's what you want to include. So they will see that you have a reason to write this. So include that in your bio. If you've won awards for writing, or if you have taught about fantasy writing and you're writing a fantasy book, you want to include that. So include that in your bio. A headshot, don't forget. And please don't just take a picture with your iPhone or your phone. Try and get a professional headshot. Find a friend with a really good camera if you can't afford it. To be honest, I found a local woman who is a photographer, and she took my headshots for like $50. And I got a lot of good photos from that I can use interchangeably. Ask some local photographers if they can quickly do some headshots for you. It's really not that difficult, upwards of $100 maybe to get them, but get a headshot, get a professional looking headshot, one that coordinates with what things you're writing. And then your contact information, of course, is going to be included on your one sheet and your query letter for both. You want to have an email or a website, some way they can contact you, a phone number even. Email is probably most normal, usual. So that's what's on a one sheet. And again, a one sheet is a one sheet thing. You only want to have something very simple to hand the agent or editor when you're at the conference and meeting them face to face. You want them to be able to read it quickly, look at you, talk to you about it, and then be able to take it with them. They don't want stacks of paper to take home with them. One sheet. Now, proposals can get much more in depth, and it really depends on who is asking for your proposal, what their guidelines are. So if you're talking with an agent of a publisher or an editor of a publisher, a managing editor or an acquisitions editor, you want to know what their guidelines are to put your proposal together. I'm going to give you tips for certain things that should go in your proposal. But again, you'll want to check with the publisher's website or the literary agent's website to find what their specific guidelines are, and you want to follow those to a T. This means that you're not going to have a cookie cutter proposal. They are going to look different based on who you are sending them to. Book proposal is an intention grabbing cover letter, a dynamic marketing plan, a synopsis of a well-crafted book, and the first 3 chapters that you're going to present to an agent or editor who has indicated interest in your writer's manuscript. Remember, they've indicated interest. Do not, unless the website says they take unsolicited proposals, do not just send your proposal to a whole bunch of agents and editors and publishers. They often have guidelines for that too. A lot of them will want an agent. So you'll go to a literary agent and talk to them. And if they take you on as a client, they'll say, okay, give me your basic proposal and I'll send that out to publishers. But most of the time, it's only when they've indicated interest in your manuscript that you're going to provide this. A proposal has 4 parts. A cover letter, that includes a cover page with the title of the manuscript, your name as the writer, your address, your phone number, and email address and website. If you don't have a website, you could take that off. But yes, you want to give them all the details. The letter itself, cover letter, should be short, 1 page. In fact, you could use what is on your query letter as your first page. You are enticing the agent or publisher to read the rest of your proposal. So you're going to start, just like you do your story, with a hook. Study the guidelines, like I said, for specific publishers you're submitting to. Not every proposal will be the same. Remember that. You can't just send a standard one out to 100 publishers. The cover letter especially should cater to a specific person you are submitting to. Do not just say, "Dear literary agent." Try to find out a name, a specific person that you are submitting to. They want to see that you are talking to them. Second, a marketing plan. This is where you'll show how you will promote your book. Yes, I know, promotion and marketing is a pain, but most publishers are not going to do that for you. So you will need to show them how you plan to sell this book. How do you plan to make it a success? This is a business transaction between you and the publisher, and they want to know you're going to uphold your end of the deal. This section will include who you are. It's going to talk about Things like I said about in your bio. Do you have a particular affinity for this type of writing? Do you have experience in this type of writing? Do you hold a degree, especially if it's a nonfiction book and you're trying to prove a point? Is there a degree you have or some kind of award that you have won? Why are you the right writer for this project? Then you're also going to include details about the book, which means who is the audience? If it's nonfiction, what problem will it solve? And you will detail how you plan to market the book. So, social media, speaking, what is your platform? Remember, platform is not all just social media. Sometimes it's a speaking platform that you have. Do you get to go into doctor's offices? And this book has something to do with how doctors could benefit. You're going to put all that in. However you plan to market it, however you plan to put your book in front of people, that's what you want to put in that section. This is also the section to include comparable titles, like I talked about with the query letter. These are books that are similar to yours. If you think you don't have any books, there are no books similar to yours, do more research, because there's nothing new under the sun. I say that all the time, but it is now from your perspective. So it is new, but there are other books that are like yours. So if you've written a fantasy dystopian type of novel like The Hunger Games, say it's like The Hunger Games. Or is it like Lord of the Rings, this fantasy long journey epic? Say what it's like. Try and use current titles, which means in the last 2 years. So Lord of the Rings would not be one you want to use. So use comparable titles. Go on Amazon, go to your local bookstore, go to the section you think your book would be in, and start looking at the books and figure out which ones are similar to yours. You're going to give the title to that book, you're going to give the description, the back cover copy blurb, and you're going to say why it is similar and why it is different. So don't just list comparable titles. You're going to say why it is similar to yours and why it's different. Then you're also going to give any possible endorsements that you could potentially garner to help sell your book. Endorsements are reviews, often from important or high-ranking people that will help sell your book. I have a friend who had an endorsement for her book from Joni Eareckson Tada. That's a great one. Maybe you know Tim Keller, or maybe you know Max Lucado, or Stephen King. Who knows? If they connect to your book in a way that is good for you, then you want to try and get their endorsements. Now, don't just say you're going to get these endorsements for like Stephen King and you're not really able to get that. It's difficult to get that unless you have some connection. Be realistic. But if you have a possibility of getting some potential endorsements that would help sell your book, they're going to want to know that because it's going to help sell your book. Again, you're going to please remember to check the guidelines of any publishers you wish to submit to for all the details you need to include. Your proposal is also going to include a synopsis. A synopsis is not the back cover copy. It is a chapter by chapter accounting of your book. So in nonfiction, it's just that chapter by chapter accounting of your book. You're going to use 2 to 3 sentences to explain the content of each chapter, especially in nonfiction. In fiction, you're going to write what the story is about. You're going to tell them what the point of view You're going to name point of view characters. You are going to tell them what the plot is, the genre, the setting. You're going to include how you carry the theme throughout and to the length of the book. A synopsis should be a maximum of 3 pages, double spaced. This is not an enticement. Do not leave the editor or publisher hanging with vague sentences. They want to know exactly what your book is about. Yes, if it is fiction, you are going to tell them the end. It is going to be the entire synopsis of the book. What happens each chapter? Synopsis. Short, little thing. For each chapter. What happens in each chapter? How does that lead to the end? Yes, you are going to tell them how the book ends. It's okay. They need to know. Then it's also going to typically, the proposal is typically going to include the first 3 chapters of your book. The agent or editor will want to read the first 3 chapters so they can see the quality of the writing. That will determine whether they'll want to pursue you, because are you going to take more editing time? That's more money out of their pocket, so they might not. So be sure that those 3 chapters that you sent are well written. At least, if you cannot afford an editor, at least get an editor, someone who is professional and knows, to edit the first 3 to 5 chapters of your book so that they are like tight and grammar and spelling error free, because that's what you're going to give, and that is going to be part of your selling point. This will determine whether they want to see the entire manuscript. So you want it to be good. I hope this has helped you. I hope that this has helped you understand that the differences between a query, a one sheet, and a proposal, and where those kind of fall in. Remember, a query is more that you are reaching out to a publisher or a magazine to say, I would like to write this type of book or article or blog post for your organization. And here's what it's going to be about. And here's who I am and why I'm the right person to write this. And please contact me. Here's all my contact information. A one sheet is basically the same. You're going to possibly put in the back cover copy. You're going to have a short bio and all of your contact information and a headshot, because typically the one shot is given directly to an agent or publisher in person. Then a proposal is a much lengthier, more in-depth thing that often includes first several chapters. It includes comparable titles. It is going to include your marketing plan. This will go by guidelines that the publisher has. So determine what they need, and that's what a proposal is. Proposals, again, can be much more complicated. So I've only given you the basics. So I hope this helps you, and good luck on your next writing project. For more tips like these, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel, as well as check out my other videos here, and subscribe to my author newsletter, which comes out twice a month and it comes right to your inbox. All of the pertinent information for that is down in the description.